What's up, everybody? Tom Pelissero here with Judd Zulgad on Wednesday, back at Winter Park. Vikings resuming practice today. They face San Francisco on Sunday, and it's an interesting matchup, Judd, because you have a team that wants to be the other team. The way the Vikings are building this thing in terms of a ball control offense that runs the football, a strong physical defense that's going to be able to shut people down, to give you short fields, to create turnovers. That's what the Vikings want to be.
Right.
They're not that yet.
Right, well, and they're not even close right now, but yes, they are going to get a team in San Francisco. I mean, ultimately, what's funny is you could go back to 2006 when Brad Childress took over. This is what the Vikings wanted to be, right?
Right.
Strong defensive line, strong offensive line, and a defense that gets out there and immediately punches you in the face and basically dictates control of the game.
Right.
That's where the 49ers are at right now. That's what the Vikings would like to be. But when you say they're not there yet, you watch them at times and they're not even close. You know what the Vikings want to accomplish? But boy, when you watch this, Tom, I mean, we've talked about this all preseason too. It is a complete work in progress. I mean, we are still talking a good year away or more from being even close to where the 49ers are at. And I'm not talking wins and losses. I'm talking actually having that mentality instilled.
Well, and generating takeaways is one huge part of this entire equation here, and that's something the Vikings just haven't been able to do. We were just talking about it out on the practice field. 2 interceptions in, I believe it's their past 13 games now. Mm-hmm. And one of those hit Mr. L. Raymond in the chest. The other one was by Cedric Griffin, who's not even here anymore. They haven't been able to do that. They haven't been around the football, and you get into some of those late-game situations like they just did against the Colts. Not that you need an interception in that situation, but come near the football. Have a chance to make a play. I don't think there's been a whole lot of times so far, if you think about it, where the coverage is broken down, where it's simply been confusion and a guy's been running free. They've simply gotten beat. They don't have the personnel to keep up right now. They have some weaknesses in different spots, and they're not around the football that much. How many even chances have they had for interceptions? 2 or 3 so far?
Well, and that's the thing is, when Mike Tomlin came here with Childress in 2006, what was the one thing Tomlin just focused on? Turnover. That was back in the day in practice where you had, if you picked up a loose football and they didn't care where it came from, you ran to the end zone with that football. The whole mentality was forced turnovers. We don't care what else happens. Let's just get teams to turn the ball over. And boy, that is so far gone now. And you're right. You look back at even the chances for interceptions, even guys looking like they could jump a route. Think about it. You just don't see it much.
Well, and the other component of this, too, is how do you manage to generate some sort of a downfield passing attack to at least be able to stretch the defense, prevent them from doing what Indianapolis did, and playing a safety 8 yards off the line of scrimmage the entire game, where they could still drop back, they could play quarters, they could still get back into a deep cover 2, and they also could play the run. Without somebody on the other side, they're going to get Jerome Simpson back in a week. They should have Jarius Wright this week, who at least would give you some element of speed. Jarius Wright is certainly not a fully dimensional receiver, but at least one more guy you have to account for. Right now what we're seeing is teams are locking down on Percy Harvin. Devin Aromashodu, Michael Jenkins, and Stephen Burton, 13 catches combined so far. Percy's got 18. That's not a sustainable sort of a divide. You need to have somebody else who's going to be a key part of this offense. Do you have to throw the ball down the field? Not necessarily, because a team like the 49ers, I think their long completion this year is 29 yards. Alex Smith has only thrown 2 passes all season so far that have gone 20 yards or more, but that's a defense that's so good. They're going to give the offense a lot of short fields. When you're the Vikings, you're trying to go 80 yards every time. You've got to be so perfect. One penalty, one incomplete pass, one batted ball at the line, it sets you back, and it's tough to make up that yardage.
And this also comes down to respect. There's nobody that respects even the threat that right now, without Jerome Simpson, the Vikings go downfield. Now, I'm not convinced Jerome Simpson's the guy, but at least he gives you that guy out there where teams say, okay, we might have to account for him. Right now, the Vikings don't even have that guy on the field. It is so easy. The problem with the Vikings offense is this. They're back to where they were in 2007 and 8, but those teams were better. But what did that come down to? Adrian Peterson. Stop Adrian Peterson and you stop the Vikings. Well, those teams in 07 and 08 were far superior to this team, and that became a real issue. Now it's a huge issue because the respect factor for this deep passing game totally gone. I'm to the point now where if I'm Bill Musgrave, I might have Michael Jenkins run a go route and throw an incompletion to him just to tell defense.
Well, they've done that.
Do this.
They did throw 3 balls down, 3 passes.
But I'm saying early. And I'm not.
They were doing it more late in the game.
Right, but I'm saying early on, just to create that perception. Right now, there is no perception whatsoever that the Vikings have any chance.
But I don't know that it helps you to throw a ball down into coverage, and that's kind of the argument here. Devin Aromashodu today talking in the locker room, and I was there, and what he said was, "Hey, we're doing a really good job. When there's plays there to be made, we're going out and making plays, but it all comes down to the plays that are called." I can tell you this. they had deep balls called against Indianapolis. They had plays. Almost every play has an option for Christian Ponder to go down the field, just like almost every play has a check down option to it. There were a lot of times, though, where you'd see a deep play action where they'd be running something close to max protect with 7 guys in protection. Christian Ponder looks downfield, and every single receiver is covered. So do you want him just to throw the ball down there and run the risk of interceptions? One thing he's done so far is he hasn't thrown interceptions.
Right.
He's thrown a couple balls that should have been intercepted.
And his whole thing Monday was, I'm not going to do that. I absolutely will not I'm not going to throw a bad pass for the sake of throwing a bad pass. What I'm saying is even an incompletion early on just to try and create the perception that you can stretch the field.
But that's just it, though. Do you want to throw that ball into coverage and have a guy not go up and make the play? The thing is, they don't trust those receivers.
Right.
They don't trust Jerome Shadu. They don't trust Jenkins to go up and go make a play. And those guys haven't shown they can do it.
And what we're talking about here to a certain degree is 2009 Sidney Rice with the Vikings, right? Favre knew he could throw into coverage for Sidney Rice, and Sidney Rice could either go up and catch the ball or break the play up. They don't even have that guy now. Now, is Jerome Simpson it? I have no idea. Explain this one to me. What's going on with the tight ends? How is Kyle Rudolph in this offense not getting a pass thrown to him until 6:23, I think, is left in the third quarter?
Well, one thing is that Kyle Rudolph is being kept into block a little bit more than we thought, and more than he was last year because they need him as the strong side tight end. Last year, Visanthe Shanko was mainly the inline guy. In this last game, Kyle Rudolph played a lot of inline snaps. They didn't detach him from formation as much, and part of that was they felt as though they needed another guy to account for that 3-4 front that Indianapolis was running. But you do need to try to get the ball into Kyle Rudolph's hands. The question is, can Kyle Rudolph consistently get open? The counter-argument to that is, well, he doesn't need to be open because he is one guy you can throw the ball up there and he's got such a good catch radius, such good hands, he's going to make a play. But is he coming open where Ponder feels really good about getting the football? Is he going to be able to run anyone up the seam? There's a balancing act here. I agree with you. They've got to be able to get the ball into those guys' hands more. John Carlson played, I think, 18 snaps in that game. The entire idea of the 2 tight end attack has not come to fruition at all. They're still trying to figure it out. I honestly think, I've said this many times, Bill Musgrave has a clever offense. It's an efficient offense if it's run correctly, but it does rely a lot on really efficient play and being able to move the chains and stay on schedule. This team's not really built to make up if they're not on schedule.
No, and I appreciate the fact that Ponder doesn't want to throw the ball deep into coverage, okay? I might do it a little bit differently, but given who he has, I get that. But to your point, with Kyle Rudolph, you're going to have to throw to him in coverage. And if the ball gets picked off, you're going to have to accept it. Right now, Percy Harvin is this offense. Let's be honest. Adrian Peterson's going to have good games. He's going to have up and down games. He's coming off. His knee blew up, folks. I mean, that's the reality of it. He looked really good in that first game, but the reality of his season is it's going to be up and down a little bit. Percy Harvin is the only offensive threat you have right now. It's not enough. They need more.
It would be a shock to me if we see Adrian Peterson pop off around more than 40 yards. He doesn't have the extra burst. You can look at this. This is medically proven. This is not me talking out of my ass. It takes 18 months for guys to get back up to full speed after ACL injuries. Is Adrian Peterson going to get back that last 5% he's talked about this year? I don't know. He can still be pretty effective as he is, but you've got to have other elements into the offense. There's no one else besides Percy Harvin right now that you really feel as though you've got a double team, and the Colts increasingly double team, and Jacksonville did it too in the red zone.
The blowing out an ACL for a football player is Tommy John surgery in baseball for a pitcher. It's going to take a year. It's going to take a year before we see the guy, I think, that we saw a couple years ago.
And the difference is pitchers can go for 15, 20 years. For NFL running backs, your shelf life is maybe 7 or 8 years. You lose it 1 year at age 27. It could be a tough deal to come back.
$35 million guaranteed. He still gets the $35 million guaranteed.
I'm not saying he's going to be a bad player. I'm just saying we're not going to see the same guy this year.
I agree with you. I'm with you.
We should get out of here before anyone else walks behind us.
All right, let's do that. Bye.
He's Judd. I'm Tom. Full Vikings coverage at 1500ESPN.com. We'll see you.